Hi YouTube, it's Catherine Michelle. Sorry it's been a while, been trying to do a lot of research on a couple different projects. I was looking into the ballistics, but that is taking a whole lot longer than I anticipated. And not just the one, I already did the video about the bullet that killed David. Isn't there. It's not there. There's no bullet with his blood on it. It's not that ballistics report. It's a review of something else that's relating to the bullets and the casings. But that's taking me a little bit longer than I had anticipated. And then so I decided to bring up some other, just one more oddity. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the first one. However, it's one that's been bothering me for a long time because, as you know, the official story is David quote-unquote snapped and, did all this stuff. However, there's a lot of information that they've left out, as you know, because we've been through a lot of it already. And on the page, the Facebook page, the Justice for David Crowley and Family, it's really funny because Christy had posted something that I was working on. So we're all starting to come to these same realizations almost at the same time. And since most of them have been in the group longer than I have, for me, this is new. She might have known this a long time ago, but for me, this was new. And I wanted to read this to you. This is coming from, hold on, let me. Okay, there was a glitch in the system. Obviously, it was operator error. Anyway, what I was getting to was a part that what I'm going to read to is going to come from this section of report number 2 from BCA. Let me put it up there so you can actually take a moment. You can stop it and read it. This, and I'll read it word for word. Warning here, this will have some descriptive wording in it, so if you're under 18 or you don't want to hear graphic details, turn it off. Just turn it off. Okay, it says, David Timothy Crowley was lying on his back with his arms spread to the sides. His right hand was missing, and only the back portion of his skull remained attached to his spine. He was wearing a white long-sleeve t-shirt with a gray short-sleeve t-shirt over it, and a navy blue undershirt, which we found out in the autopsy isn't an undershirt, but it's just another t-shirt. A navy blue undershirt, and then exposed light blue underwear, navy blue athletic pants, and rope/bracelets on his left wrist. Please pay attention to this part. This is very important. His bare left foot was covered by a blue blanket, and his right bare foot was partially exposed. A rip was observed on the left thigh of his pants, and a portion of Kamel Razul Crowley's sweater was draped over his lower right leg. His right sleeve was pushed up, and a tattoo is visible on his right forearm. Okay, now let's continue. Kamel Razul Crowley was lying on her stomach with her legs spread out to the sides, her left arm under her body extended toward the right, and her right arm extended over to her left. Both of her hands appeared to be missing, and only a portion of her skull appeared to be attached to her spine. She was wearing a brown sweater. It's brown, not blue. She was wearing a brown sweater over a black undershirt and tan undergarment, gray sweatpants with a rip in the rear right leg, and tan socks on both feet. Now, hear this part. She was also lying on top of a blue blanket. You get that? Kamel is lying on top of the blanket, the same blue blanket that is covering David's legs. So how they expect me to believe he did this, and I'm trying to picture, okay, if he snapped, as you know, that's what they say, if he snapped and did this, so what did he do? Put the blanket down on the floor, then put Kamel on top of it, and then position Rania on top of her mom, on her mom's legs, and then somehow finagle it so that by some miracle, it's not physically possible to do this, when he shoots himself in the head, there's no blood spatter to show that he even shot himself in the head. There's no bullet with the blood on it. And now he somehow miraculously ends up with both legs under this blue blanket and in this kind of a position. Could somebody please explain that? How could that happen? And I laugh because it's ludicrous. It is ridiculous, and it's unfathomable how the decision was made that this was murder-suicide. How did this man do everything that is physically impossible, and yet they, again, how could he do this? How did both of his legs end up under the blanket that Kamel is lying on top of? It can't happen that way. Just like he can't shoot himself in the head without having blood spatter, spray going out to the other side, because it's a through and through. There's going to be spray somewhere, and it was through and through. But there's nothing to the left of where he was standing, where that bullet came out, supposedly in this house came out, and I don't believe he was killed there. There's no bullet. And then, that miracle in and of itself, no bullet with blood, no brain matter, no high velocity spray, and then now somehow he ends up in the perfect cross position, and now his legs are under a blanket that his wife's body is laying on top of. I shake my head. I don't know how they came to this conclusion. I swear they didn't even pay attention to what they were looking at. Another thing, what was taking me so long was doing another video. Like I said, I was looking into doing ballistics. Not the same report, we've already covered that. I am convinced 100% that to me was it. That was the smoking gun without a bullet that killed him in that house, in that living room where it should have been, and it's not there. He didn't kill himself. Somebody else pulled that trigger, and I don't even know where he was when he did it. When they did it. When I say he did it, whenever I'm assuming it was a guy that did this to them, that's an assumption on my part. However, whoever pulled that trigger and murdered David was not standing in that place. They did not shoot him in that spot in that house. Now, when I get to doing more, it's going to take me a little bit longer because these reports are convoluted when it comes to some of these ballistics. And I'm trying to figure out how all of these numbering systems work in regard to this particular situation that I'm talking about. However, what I have been working on, and I am just about done, we are going to be going over blood spatter. Now, I don't have much knowledge in blood spatter at all. It's limited. I've seen a lot of blood spatter, but that doesn't mean I understand all of it. I do know the difference between high velocity, medium velocity, and low velocity. Yes, I know that. But I'm not always sure what exactly causes that. I do know, for an example, high velocity would be gunshot wound, medium velocity would be like a baseball bat, a club, or a knife, and low velocity, I don't know, some type of hitting like with a fist or something like that. But each one of these leaves a distinct blood pattern. And when you look at the blood patterns that are in this house, and in fact, Dr. Kelly even mentioned it when I was speaking with him. The first thing he said when he saw the blood spatter on the floor, he goes, "Huh, what's that?" And I said, "Yeah, how did that get there?" And he never went into it. So I've gone and I've picked up books. This one, Forensic Case book by Ginge. I murder people's names and I don't mean to. It's terrible, but there's the names if you want to look that up. I have another forensic book. It's not available right now. And so I'm relying on a lot of these professionals to help explain what could have caused some of these blood patterns. And when you see them, I'm going to show you the pictures from the scene itself, where it looks like there's a line of demarcation, where there was something laid down. I don't know if it was a tarp. I don't know if it was a sheet. I don't know if it was plastic. I don't know. But you can see a straight line where there's blood, say this is the line and blood kind of seeped over, and when you move this, you got this line of blood here. And then there's also another part that actually looks like a part of a left hand in blood next to medium velocity blood spatter. So but they didn't test it. They didn't luminol it to see if there's more of a handprint. It just looks like a handprint to me. Could be wrong, but when I show you guys those photos, then I will definitely ask you your opinion, and hopefully somebody out there has a little bit more knowledge, because I've been doing a lot of reading, but reading doesn't make up always for having firsthand knowledge. Again, to reiterate, I have seen a lot of different types of blood spatter. I've seen where people have coughed up blood, where they've had blood spewing out of their mouth, and it's almost this fine mist where there's air in that blood. I've seen arterial spray. I've seen gunshots. I've seen knife stabbings. I've seen a lot of that. But again, my training didn't include interpreting that. It just, you looked at it, you're like going, okay, what's the MOI? Mechanism of injury. What's the MOI? What happened to this person? Stop the bleeding. That's as far as my training went. So with that next video, I will really be counting on those of you who have knowledge in that area to please speak up and leave comments. But as for this one, tell me what you think about this, where the blue blanket is totally covering David's legs. His left leg and it says his left foot is covered. It's barefoot and it's covered. Only his right foot is partially exposed underneath that blanket. And then that same blanket is underneath Kamal. So how could he have done this with this? It doesn't make sense. We start putting all the pieces together, and all of the pieces are pointing to this family was systematically murdered, and David was not the perpetrator. So leave your comments and let me know what you think.